You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on My Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, gee, thank you, John. I really appreciate you doing my promo for me. Hey, tonight we're going to be talking about, missing cases where people have gone missing and they've been solved. We're going to be talking about, a famous gangster and, how some of that stuff might have been solved with my guests. Hey, guest, you wanted to identify yourself and tell everybody who you are.
Hey, hi, everyone. My name is ginette-lucas. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm a well-known psychic and dowser, water dowser, missing person dowser.
Now, what is a dowser?
Years ago, what happened was dowsing became a little bit more popular. Instead of using a forked stick to find water, are you familiar with that system?
Oh, yeah.
You would take a forked stick, walk along, boom, your mind is thinking water, and you would find potable water. In fact, one of the wine growers out there has named one of his bottles of wine after dowsing, D-O-W-S-I-N-G. And so what you can do is you can use the same method with what's called an L-rod or a pendulum. The ghost hunters out there are going to love it. They do it. They use it frequently. I would only say about 50% of them. The other 50% are not sure how to use it. So there is a methodology for it. There is a process. Like you can take 2 coat hanger wires, and they're called L rods. And once they cross, it means water. Or once they cross, it means yes to the question that you're going to pose. And a lot of people don't realize that if you don't pose a question, like you're talking to me, oh, hi, who are you? Okay, so you're thinking in your head, hey, where's my water? It doesn't work that way. You say, show me the water, or when I'm walking along, show me the water. And then the L rods cross, and that means that's where the water is. But there's a lot more to it. I mean, you have to ask about the depth of the water, and is it potable water? Is it water you could use for your garden only, et cetera, et cetera. So dowsing is very popular, and it's used worldwide. And people should look it up, D-O-W-S-I-N-G. And there's groups that are international in Canada. In the U.S., it's called the American Dowsing Society, also known as ASD. And at the end of the show, I'll give you information, people, so that you can pull up our site or American Society of Dowsers, their site, and you can learn more about it. But it's a lot of fun, but there is a special technique on the process of using it to do whatever you want to do, from treasure hunting, missing objects, missing persons.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about the missing person aspect. I know that, around the 1800s and stuff, as the settlers were, going and, settling across the country, and started their farming and stuff, a lot of them, would go through dry spells and where they didn't have enough water. And that's where they would hire the dowsers as they would come through, and they would try, to locate water, and that's where they would dig their well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't know that the key thing with finding water wells is that you have to use the terminology potable. Potable means drinkable. Like, you know how the Boy Scouts go out and they boil their water? You can literally find water that's ready to drink, or you have to boil it. And then there's other water that, people are, like right now, recently, I guess, hunting groups have found 3 missing people that were hiking, and they didn't have the proper water, so they died. You have to have water. You have to hydrate. And a lot of people are very naive to this. Take your water with you if you're hiking.
Oh, and that, I hate to say it, take one of these little water filters you can buy, just in case you do run into water. You just don't want to drink water what you find while you're out there, because you could drink water out there and you can die from that too before you get back in. It could be full of all kinds of, disease and bacteria and even be toxic.
Oh, absolutely. You should know this more than anyone. There was a woman who went hiking and she disappeared for, I think, 10 days to 14 days. And she had one of those water filters. And so at Christmas, we started giving everybody the water filters at Christmas. She survived, was it 10 to 14 days, having the water filter. And she followed the creek downstream when she got lost. And she had plenty of water. Now, of course, she lost a ton of weight, and she couldn't afford to lose that much weight. But I'll tell you what, she survived it. That's the tragedy with a lot of these people. Unfortunately, you do have to be careful when you're following the river. I mean, you got the bears out there, the lions out there, the snakes out there. So you do have to pace yourself. But if you carry your water jug and you've run out and you have your filter, you're good to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, and maybe get a little bit of, dehydrated food, packets. And then you're really pretty much set to go. One of my guests I had on recently is a Bigfooter, a hunter. And, I was asking him one day, I said, what type of weapons do you carry? And he goes, I carry a knife. And I said, aren't you really, really worried about running into a bear or a cougar or a mountain lion or whatever when you're way out there? I mean, let alone maybe a Bigfoot. But, I mean, going out there and not having survival gear is crazy.
I don't get it. I don't have to leave my home when I do my work. I'm very fortunate with almost all my work. I get the packet in the mail. I unfold the maps. I pinpoint items on the maps, and I send it back. I don't have to go bigfooting. I would rather watch them on YouTube or watch them live on Facebook, and then I see them going out there and they're pinpointing this or pinpointing that. Oh, yeah, look, there's a cougar. And I'm thinking to myself, he could be hungry. They smell us. We smell differently. It's no different. I mean, a lot of people take a lot of risks. I'm not willing to do that.
Well, even up where I live up here, there's a place called, just out of Seattle, maybe about 20 miles, is a place called Tiger Mountain. And, people go in there just for walking and hiking and jogging even. And there was a lady a few years ago, succumbed to a cougar. And the cougar, I guess, was following her for a distance before it made its plunge. So, I mean, people got to be careful when they go out.
Yeah, well, yeah. The other thing I've noticed is, and I know this is goofy, I'm not a Bigfooter, but I am fascinated by it. The cougars go up in the trees. I really wonder if the Bigfoots don't go up in the trees. I mean, I'm sure some of these, because they have this monkey type of thing going on. The only thing is they're big. And so if they're you can see how fast they walk. And then all of a sudden you've got this person or thing, this mammal climbing a tree. Can you imagine how fast they could climb up a tree? I mean, I just see them moving too quickly. I mean, they've got to be going somewhere.
Well,
they can't just
I can honestly
disappear.
A friend of mine, back around 2002, I used to run a chain of photo stores in between my broadcasting career. And we got to know each other. He was a medical doctor. He just got done doing his internship. He was opening a practice up in a place called Puyallup, Washington. And we decided we're going to go up to the Canadian Rockies and take pictures of old ghost towns. And there was an old World War II encampment that they used to, put the Japanese prisoners in, miles and miles away from, any town way out in the woods. And we decided we wanted to go there. And we hiked in around 2 miles or so. And we found the old internment camp, a few basic, well, there was a couple little buildings left there, but then there was a mine on the opposite side of the internment camp because it was like a mountain cliff or a mountain, on a mountainside or near a mountain bottom, I should say, base. And my friend who's a doctor said, hey, look at that bear. Now, it was maybe about 1,000 feet from us. So, he didn't have a telephoto lens on his camera. I had the telephoto. He was doing wide-angle shots. So I look up at it, and I say to my friend, I said, hey, this is not a bear. And at the same time, I held that lens. And maybe it was a reflection from the lens. I'm not sure. That thing screamed at me like you wouldn't believe for us. And it came running, and it ran on 2 legs, down to 4 legs, down to 2 legs, back and forth. And chases all the way back out to where the car was. And even when
you're in his territory.
Yeah, and I can honestly tell you that for people going out trying to find a Bigfoot, I don't think you're going to find it. I mean, we were out in the middle of nowhere. I can't even say it was a Bigfoot. All I can say is the sucker was about 8 feet tall and maybe around 500 pounds. And it ran between 2 legs and 4 legs. and it was the ugliest looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I'm just curious, did you see it up in a tree too? Because you just said they went from standing up to 4 legs, high rate of speed, chasing you.
Oh, yeah.
You hear about them throwing rocks or items at people.
Oh, yeah, I can guarantee that, because what made it interesting, I had a car, it was a Jeep, but it was like 5 or 6 years old. And my wife goes, well, you're going on a long trip. She just bought a brand new, at the time it was a Cavalier. She only had it for a couple of weeks. She goes, here, take it. Here's the key. So we took it. And, getting back to the car, and this is the scary part, we smelled like urine, really strong. Musky urine, sickening smell. Oh, my God. It was a real sickening smell. And then we looked, and this sucker, I don't know if it was the same one or a mate or whatever, it was bending a tree over right next to the car, maybe 25, 30 feet away from the car, bending a tree over like it was nothing, and it screamed at us. I got so scared, I got into the car, got it started. My friend was just getting into the car. I was dragging him as I took off because he wasn't all the way in. It threw a rock, hit the front fender of the passenger side and put a huge dent in it. I come home, right? My wife, first thing she says to me, she goes, okay, well, where were you drinking at? How much were you drinking, or what were you smoking? I said, I haven't smoked anything since Vietnam days. So, and I don't drink. So, I mean, I told her what happened, and, she didn't believe me. I don't think to this day she thinks I ran into something, and I didn't run into anything in her car.
Well, I have noticed that they're capable of, I know we're going to talk about dreams, but I'm very fascinated by Bigfoot. And the other thing that fascinates me, I mean, they look like they're capable of lifting something very heavy, of course. I mean, they could probably have lifted your darn car up. And so even though you were trying to get away, they would be like, because they would probably pick the car up and shake it as if they're saying, I'm really pissed at you. Maybe they can't speak English or whatever our language is, but they're going, making a lot of noises. There was a cop recently, or another family recently in the last few years, that videotaped it with their GoPro chasing it. I know this sounds silly, but they were going 35 miles an hour. That's really creepy. I mean,
yeah, and and it's really funny is like I had Ed Romans on my show back around March of last year. Now, Ed Romans, I don't know if you know who he is. In Canada, if you mention his name, everybody knows who he is. He's Canada's number 1 folk singer. And he wanted to be on my show really bad. And then I finally got a hold of him because his people from the record company kept saying, here, he wants to come on your show. Well, I found out him and his dog were out by where he lives. There's a big, forest around there. And he used to go out there for walks. And him and his dog were out going for a walk. And he said about 1,000 or so feet in front of him, there was a Bigfoot. And it stared at him, described about the same type of scream that, what I heard. And it took off running after him and his dog. And he noticed the same thing. It ran on 2 legs to 4 legs to 2 legs to 4 legs to 2 legs. And it chased him almost all the way back to where his car was. And then he looked at the last time around, it was gone. But I don't know. People will say they don't exist. I do think they exist. I don't think you're going to find them in any national forest where a lot of people go in and out. I think they're way out now. I really do.